one is first?
Record.
Okay, so welcome everybody to tasting number 99.
Yay!
Wow. 100 for the Saratoga Whiskey Club. Next week will be number 100, which is pretty exciting. Vince was in the shop earlier today and he shared that his picture of his first tasting was the Japanese whiskey dinner that we did at Hamlet and Ghost. Yeah. And that was, I think he said it was number 25?
28.
Oh, 28.
Wow.
That just seemed like yesterday that we did that tasting. So to think that we're at number 99 today is just shows you how much whiskey we've drank in the last 3 years or 2 years, but pretty crazy. But here we are again, another great night, great lineup of whiskey. Tonight we are going to focus on a variety of styles and whiskeys from actually different countries even. These are all bottles that are imported by a company called Glass Revolution Imports. And Raj is the man behind Glass Revolution, and hopefully he will be joining us here shortly. He is responsible for bringing into this country some of the best scotches and other whiskeys from different countries, and we're very excited to have these whiskeys in the shop for sure. But just a couple of things. We do have a scorecard, so please remember to score. I don't know if anybody noticed, but I did actually tabulate last week's tasting. I am going to go from that backwards and start catching up eventually. But I have done something, so you can't say I have not. So score, basically, that's the bottom line. I do like it when you know, these whiskeys have a number next to them, so we can kind of tell what people liked. Okay, so we're going to start with Waterford. We have, oh, here's Raj. Let's wait a second. Talk about good timing.
Hello.
Hey, Raj.
Hey, sorry, Charles. I apologize. I had, for some reason, 7:30 in my calendar.
Oh, no problem at all. No problem at all. We were wondering if you were still, you know, on a pool cushion in the Maldives, possibly. You know,
yeah, well, I've only been back a week, and yeah, I'd rather be able to just dive into the ocean and swim around, which is,
yeah, wonderful. All right, so let me just tell you what we've done. We haven't done anything. So
okay.
we basically just was introducing you without you introducing yourself. So I'm going to let you do that. I'm going to kind of, if you could give us your whiskey background, your whiskey story. This is tasting number 99 for our club. We're really excited.
Wow.
To do this. Yeah, it's pretty great. Oops, Holly's trying to sign me out. That's not going to work. Yeah, so why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit about your background and how you got into doing what you do, and how you get access to these great brands.
All right. Well, you know, it's ironic that you're doing this is tasting number 99. Being having grown up in Canada, I guess I equate 99 to Gretzky being the great one. So hopefully this will be a great tasting.
There we go.
So I started the company about 12 years ago. After many years in the corporate world, just wanted to follow my own passions, and I was handed an opportunity to, I just moved back to the US from Canada and had an opportunity to handle Amrut, single malt whiskey. And my first reaction when I was contacted was, there's no good whiskeys in India. And I was proven greatly wrong by that. My business partners were importing Amrut into Canada. And the first time I tasted it, I was very impressed with it, because having visited India as in my younger years, and my cousins giving me whiskey, it was like, well, what is this stuff? This isn't whiskey. You know, so that set me on the track. And we were the first ones to, you know, bring in a foreign whiskey into the US. So, you know, from India, We also had, we were the first ones to bring in a English single malt, the English Whiskey Company, Australian, Sullivan's Cove. And back then there was a lot of challenges with the TTB and trying to get them to understand that these were all single malt whiskeys. They were made the same way that they're made in Scotland. We had to send a full bottle of every single one to the TTB lab to be analyzed, and they would come back to us and tell us, this is what you can call it. But our pressure paid off. We no longer have to do that. But I think because of everything we did, our reputation sort of preceded us. And now, in addition to me seeking out brands, we get contacted and approached by a lot of brands because they understand that we have the knowledge and ability to bring these to the US markets. And oftentimes when I'm speaking in different countries about the US market, I have to emphasize that, dealing with the US is like dealing with 51 different countries. It's not one country. There's so many different rules and regulations to deal with, and everyone wants to come here, but it's not as easy as they think.
Yeah, definitely.
So, hopefully that was enough, Charles, and I haven't gone overboard.
Yeah, no, that's wonderful. So we've gotten to know a little bit of Waterford and a little bit of Blackadder. Murray McDavid is fairly new to the club. We have done some Amrut before, but at some point I would love to get with you and do a full Amrut tasting as well, because it's definitely worth just diving in deep on Amrut. There's Holly there. She just joined us. Raj, that's great. And so you've been basically bringing in these brands for 12 years, you said? And
Yep.
Okay. And you're in Pennsylvania, is that right?
No, I live in North Carolina now. But,
you're in North Carolina. Okay.
I lived most recently was in Pittsburgh for 7 years, and I've been in North Carolina for 3 years now.
Oh, nice, wonderful.
So moved on a lot, but as I said, grew up in Canada, so I was not, across Lake Ontario in Toronto, so not that far away from where a lot of you are. So
nice, wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for helping put this tasting together. Raj contributed a great number of bottles for this tasting, and it's really exciting to share these and get his knowledge as we go through these. So let's go ahead and get started. We're going to start with Waterford tonight. I wasn't sure exactly if we should do the biodynamic before the cuvee, but
I would do that. I would do the biodynamic first. And I just wanted to add, Charles, that you asked me about my whiskey knowledge and stuff. So I'm WSET, the Wine and Spirits Education Trust, level 3 in spirits. I also teach level 1, 2, and 3 for them. And I also teach the Whiskey Ambassador program. There's soon to be an advanced level of that, which I'm doing a training course in Glasgow in end of April. So
that's wonderful.
So got a little bit of knowledge to share, but yeah,
a thing or two, I would take it.
Well, hopefully, but I can always learn more. There's always stuff to learn.
That's right. That's why we're all here.
Yeah. So we are going to start with the Waterford Biodynamic Luna. This is the first ever biodynamic whiskey in the world. Okay. Biodynamic is a farming practice where it was sort of codified in the 1930s, but it's been around for thousands of years. It is farming practice where you rely on everything that the soil and the conditions and provide. There are no fertilizers, no produced commercial fertilizers or anything else that are used. A lot of the plantings and harvesting and everything else is done following the phases of the moon. So to get this, Waterford had to convince farmers to grow their barley biodynamically. They were able to get 4 different farms to do it, and they grew different strains of barley. It wasn't only one type of barley, but that all that barley came and was harvested at the same time. Waterford has this great thing called a cathedral, where every barley that's from every farm is kept separately to dry separately. And then the barley is malted separately. It is fermented and distilled separately, and then goes into barrels separately, where it is matured, and then different elements of it are brought together to create this. So this is, I don't know how many people are familiar with Waterford, but on the back of the bottle, you'll see a terroir code. Okay, Waterford probably has the most transparency of any distillery I know of. In fact, at the bottom, etched into the, or blown into the bottle, is terroir, transparency, and traceability. So if you entered that code into Waterford's website, you would get more information than you ever dreamt possible. Okay, so this whiskey had 194 hours of fermentation.
Wow.
And if you compare that, that is vastly higher than any other distillery for any other thing. Most distilleries in Scotland probably average about 72 hours of fermentation. So this is almost triple that. And that's all natural fermentation. So you're allowing the yeast to eat all the sugars, turn everything into alcohol that can then be distilled. And oftentimes what happens is, because of you doing a long fermentation, you go through a secondary fermentation. So you get a lot of that malolactic stuff creating, which gives you a lot of that sort of banana, bubblegum, acid, like other notes that come from a secondary fermentation. So this is just, incredible whiskey. The barley was, when it was all brought together, it was all mashed. So in this case, because there wasn't enough farm to produce enough biodynamic, they used 4 different farms, brought it all together. And when Waterford distills, they fill the barrels at full proof that it comes off the stills at. So most distilleries in Scotland would add water to the distillate before they fill the barrels to get more barrels to fill. In Waterford's case, they're filling the barrels at about 170, 172 proof.
Wow.
Okay. Compare that to, in Scotland, usually it averages about 125 proof.
Yeah.
And that's just to get a lot more extraction, a lot more flavor coming out of there. They tend to use 4 different types of barrels: ex-bourbon, new American oak, what they call premium French oak, which are typically from top growth vineyards, and then vin doux naturel. What's fascinating about this particular whiskey is that the French oak that was used came from such chateaus as Chateau Lafite, Chateau Latour, and a few other ones like that. So if anyone here is a Bordeaux drinker, you will know those names. And to get barrels from those wineries is very difficult. And in this case, the vin doux naturel was mostly export casks, but a couple of Amarone casks, which is the Italian wine. But Amarone, because of the higher alcohol and the way they make it, it tends to have port-like qualities. So that's why they qualified as a vin doux naturel. So the barrels all get filled, they mature separately, and then when they're ready to bottle the whiskey, they'll take components from all the different barrels to bring it together to create what's in the bottle.
Mm-hmm.
So,
do we know how many barrels were used for this?
There were, it's on the website. I can't remember exactly how many, but if you go in and enter the code, you can certainly get it. But this was a worldwide release. It wasn't only in the US. There was, I think, about 40,000 bottles worldwide.
Okay, so a fairly large release.
Fairly large release, yes. And ABV is 50%. Somebody's asking that. All Waterford does everything at 50% or 100 proof. And this was aged for 3 years, 2 months, and 1 day. So I don't know if you want to get more specific than that.
I've been to the distillery a couple of times now, and a few of us in this tasting have gone on a tour with me a couple of years ago there, and we saw, you know, all of their computers and tracking of all of the farms and the weather and the rain, and I mean everything. It was pretty phenomenal. And it's, you know, basically the whole Mark Rainier philosophy from Bruichladdich taken on steroids, and it's really, really fantastic. But you know, we tasted some whiskeys out of the cask there, and they were really great. Why 50%? What's the deal? Why is everything at 50%? I mean,
well, Mark's a believer in, you know, trying to give the consumer the best thing. So obviously it's not chill filtered. There's no color added to it. 50% allows you to add or much or as little water as you want. I think 50% is a sweet spot for them.
okay.
You know, if they went down to 43 or 46, you know, obviously you're paying for more water. And Mark's a believer in you shouldn't have to pay for water, right? You should have to pay for whiskey that's in your bottle.
Okay, I wasn't sure if there was, you know, maybe some other reason or.
Nope. No, it was that you know, the blue bottle, just Waterford blue. You know, also colored bottle to take away the whole thing about people's perception that color in a whiskey implies something. And we all know that color does not imply anything, right? You can get a younger whiskey that's darker in color than an older whiskey. So the blue takes away from it. The other thing is the glass stopper. Okay, so you're not getting any cork taint at all. You know, cork is a living object. Obviously, it affects wine a lot more than it affects whiskey, but occasionally you can have some cork effects onto the whiskey. So by having the glass stopper, they don't do this. All right, I will, in the chat, somebody's asked for the terroir code. I'm going to enter that for the biodynamic.
Yeah, and Chad, that's a good question. I mean, the Bruichladdich, you know, releases are at 50% also. Is that by coincidence, or is that a true passover from the Bruichladdich days?
I don't know if everything from Bruichladdich is at 50%. I think Laddie Classic is probably at 46 or
Yeah,
40.
that's true. It is a little less.
Yeah. So I mean, there were certain things that Mark tried to implement at Bruichladdich that, you know, that they still follow to today. But you know, that the 50% was just something that he felt you know, is something that's going to give you more flavor. Obviously, when you have higher alcohol, you can control the flavor a lot better.
Raj, is in the US, there's a restriction on the maximum alcohol percent by alcohol proof that you can put into a barrel, but there's nothing like that in Ireland.
Correct. There's nothing like, and the US does not, the only restriction in the US for filling barrels is for bourbon. Other
Okay.
products don't have that restriction.
Okay, thank you. We've tasted some whiskeys previously which go into the barrel of a much lower proof, so there's less need to proof it down afterwards.
Yeah,
But the
that's true.
Waterford goes in at the highest still proof, so that which gets different philosophies of which way gets the most from the wood.
Well, if you fill something at a lower proof, your probably intent is not to age it as long. You know, you're not going to get as much extraction. I mean, obviously, when you fill the barrel, there is a symbiotic relationship between the spirit and the wood, where the wood is extracting volatiles that you don't want, and it's giving the spirit some, you know, flavors and color. So when you fill it at a higher proof, your intent is probably to keep it longer, but also to extract as much flavor as you can. the higher alcohol is obviously going to have more impact with the wood to get
So
more
question about that, because this is a 3-year-old whiskey and most of the stuff I've seen from Waterford, it tends to be on the young side like that. So do they have plans to have some 10, 12, 15, 18-year-old whiskeys down the road once they've been in production for a while?
So if you've had any of the other single farm origin Waterfords, these are the youngest Waterfords you'll ever have. Everything coming forward will, everything is aging. You'll get older stuff coming through, and certainly when we taste the next one, which is the Cuvee, that is a composition of older whiskeys to create that. So again, that is the step going forward. As Mark so eloquently put it, is that the single farm origin whiskeys are stepping stones to creating one mind fuck of a whiskey. So that's his ultimate goal, is to create the best whiskey. And when I asked Mark, what's your ultimate dream that you have to have Waterford? And he said, well, I really want to be able to sit in my home in Islay and drink a 20-year-old Biodynamic.
Nice. I have a question regarding last year's releases. The organic Gaia was the only one that actually said organic on it, and the other single farm origins that were released, the one online and the 2 that you could buy in retail, why were those not organic? Or I mean,
No, they were not. No, they were all single farm origins. The organic was actually from 6 different farms. There wasn't enough a single farm to produce enough organic barley.
Okay.
But that was the only one that was clearly
Now,
organic.
are they
So
gonna try and stick to organic and biodynamic going forward?
yeah, in
or-
fact, well, so it's all part of the Arcadian series. So
Okay.
we actually do have organic 2.1 that's available now. So it's the second release of the
Oh,
organic.
And that's
And
Gaia as well,
the
or-
biodynamic will be, you won't have a 1.2, but you'll have a 2.1, which will be the second release. They're also working with, when I was at the distillery in October, they had just harvested some ancient varietals of barley. So they're working to do that. So that's all part of the Arcadian series. You'll see biodynamic, organic, and heritage grains,
Okay.
heritage barley coming up.
Yeah, and for the new members that are maybe not so familiar with Waterford, they're located in Ireland. We didn't really say that, but it's pretty unusual to have a distillery like this in Ireland that's doing really traditional Scottish distillation. They're basically changing the game in Ireland big time. So
Yeah, so that's a good point, Charles. When Bruichladdich was sold, Mark was against it, but overruled by the board. And he had, started to do things which he hadn't finished. So one thing that he wanted to do was continue making whiskey. And when he was at Bruichladdich, he was talking to the master distiller and asked him, where's the best barley? Because he wanted to follow the barley. And he said, well, it's Ireland grows the best barley. So, Mark did visit sites in Scotland and Ireland and England, trying to find a site where he could set up his distillery. And lo and behold, in Waterford, there was an ex-Diageo property. It's actually the site of a brewery that goes back to the 1700s. But most recently, it had been an old Guinness brewery that was making the syrup for Kilkenny and Guinness for the African markets. And then after spending probably about 20 million pounds or euros, sorry, in refurbishing this, Diageo decided to conglomerate everything down at St. James's Gate. So they abandoned the property, and Mark happened to see it was for sale and picked it up for a pretty good price, considering all of the equipment was there. They didn't have any pot stills, so he had to bring in pot stills. He had a couple of old pot stills that were sitting up at Bruichladdich that were from the old Interleven distillery that belonged to him. So he brought those down, and they were what was used originally to do that. So it was just fortune. Waterford is probably, although it's not made like traditional Irish whiskey, because it's a single malt, double distilled, it's more Scottish in nature, but it's probably more Irish than any other Irish whiskey because it's 100% Irish barley.
Yeah.
So all of the ingredients are homegrown.
Yeah, it's really, really a wonderful distillery. It's probably one of the most exciting newer distilleries that, I've really become a fan of in the last, 10 years. They're going to be taking it to a whole nother level. This Biodynamic is fantastic. Head and shoulders, I think, above last year's releases, in my opinion. This is really fantastic whiskey.
Well, this is really different. I mean, again,
Yeah.
what you're taking, what you're getting is barley without any influence of, other materials. So there's no fertilizer, no chemicals added to it. It's naturally grown. So you're really tasting the barley. You're really tasting the ground, the earth, and everything that went into it. I think compare this to other Waterfords, and you're getting a lot more sort of spicy, peppery notes that are coming in there that you don't notice in the other ones.
Yeah,
Yeah.
a lot of buttery notes. This is
Yeah.
really nice.
Yeah, it's interesting you talked about the earth, because I would describe it as earthy, almost. I mean, it sounds a little weird. I'm saying almost gamey. I'm almost getting like venison or some kind of meatiness in it.
Well, I don't know if that comes from, the part of the biodynamic process is you take cow horns and fill them with cow manures and bury it into the ground. That acts as a natural fertilizer. But I'm just joking about that. They do that, but I don't think that.
No, that's Floki. I don't know if you've had Floki.
Yeah. That's from Iceland. Yeah, of course. Yep.
That's what floating in the dram is, the little pieces of. Oh wait, sorry.
Yeah, and it's good. Charles, I'll let you answer this. Somebody asked about the price point on this, so I think, you or Holly can
I can't
identify
see.
that.
It's 112.99.
112.
And then the cuvee is a little less, right? It's
Yeah.
What's 92.99 is the cuvee. So
Okay. All right. So
let's move to
speaking of cuvee, should we go on to the cuvee?
let's do that.
I'll put in the terroir code so everybody has that. Notice that there is a star in the code. So it's actually load star and then the word star. Okay.
Is there a hyphen in the between?
No, there's no hyphen. When you enter it, it automatically does it. But the fifth letter or thing is one of the star symbols in there. So the cuvee was a real departure from the traditional labels. They actually worked with an artist in Ireland to develop this. She certainly spent the day with Ned and the rest of the team and shared a few drams of whiskey and to get inspiration for developing this. But quite the incredible label that you can see on there, and that's actually now an art display that's on at in Waterford that you can see. So the cuvee was I'm going to go out on a whim here and say that probably a lot of you are wine drinkers or at least appreciate some wine. But if you follow Bordeaux and in the top growth Burgundies, you realize that they in Bordeaux especially, all the wines are made separately. They'll keep the Cabernet Sauvignon, the Merlot, the Petit Verdot, all of those are kept separately and matured separately, and then they'll take elements of it to blend together to create the Grand Vin or the top wine, which is what they've done here. So they've taken whiskeys from 25 different farms. Some of those are the US exclusive releases like the Dunmore and the Dunbell, and they took single barrels from these 25 different farms, brought them together to create the cuvee. Okay, so this has got elements of all these different ones in there. Has 4 different types of barley. So whereas the single farms and the biodynamic was only one type of barley, because these are single farms, you've got Irenia, Taberna, Overture, and Propino to get, if you want to get geeky on the different types of barley. This was 4 years, 5 months, and 19 days. So it's about a year older than all of the other Waterfords you've had so far. So what do people think of this?
I really like it.
It's also bottled at 100 proof for 50%.
It has more, it reminds me more of some of the single farm releases, just some of the notes that come forward
Yeah.
compared to the biodynamic.
But I think it's very, I mean, there's a lot of complexity in there.
Yeah.
Certainly you're not, just off the nose, because you're getting a lot of esters off of this. This is, I think the alcohol is really coming through on the nose on this. Probably benefits from a little bit of water to open it up, but or spending a little time in the glass to see how it opens up. But again, if you go on to the website, I put in the code. If you go in there, you will see all of the different barrels that were used. I mean, there is complete transparency here. You know exactly which farm, which barrel was selected to build all this together. So Ned, who's the head distiller, and his team spent about probably about 4 months deciding what was going to go into this.
This is great. It's really, really nice.
We're getting a lot of comments that people like this better than the biodynamic. The good thing is that there's so many different whiskeys and everyone has different tastes, so that it's good that there's so many different whiskeys out there, because not everything's going to appeal to everyone. But I mean, I think there's days when I might prefer the biodynamic. There's days when I certainly like the cuvee.
Today is the day that Ann and I like the biodynamic better. Is that available still, or is that, you said 40,000 bottles that have been snapped up worldwide?
No, we have it still in the
You
shop.
do have it, okay.
Yeah, and we have stock of it as well.
Yeah, we can get more if we need to get
Yeah.
more.
Okay.
And there's a little bit more in Scotland as well. So, or in Ireland, sorry, not Scotland.
And I think you indicated that is a unique taste for the Waterford line, that the others just are different.
Well, it's unique only because of the biodynamic farming processes, where you're getting you're getting the pure barley elements, the pure terroir elements. When Waterford keeps talking about terroir, and this is the most terroir elements you're going to get, because this is barley and soil and sun that create this.
It's very complex, because on the one hand, I'm getting apples, but lots of citrus, a hint of like licorice, or I'd like to say anise, bananas, maybe that's mint or anise. It's some cherries. A lot going on here.
There is.
And, I love Waterford. I have the Rathclough, the Dunmore, and the Gaia. I think the first Gaia that came out, and this is certainly probably going to have to add this one. This is really
It's interesting because it has a real, like there's a lot going on at the back of your tongue, the back of your throat, but at the front you get that pepperiness. But I get that mint, I get that anise or fennel flavors in there. Certainly the citrus notes in there. Yeah, very, very good comments, Vincent. Thank you.
very nice finish, especially when you add water.
Yeah,
Gotta say.
Yeah, beautiful. Both are beautiful. I enjoyed the biodynamic a lot. Holly mentioned bucket of fruit. Totally. I mean, that's what I got as well, and I love that. I'm a big fan of that. And the second one is just really solid as well.
Well, as they say, these are natural whiskeys, right? There's, I mean, nothing, nothing added to it. It's just barley, yeast, and water, and the cask influence, right? So
I like this one right off the bat. With the biodynamic, I wasn't crazy about it when I first tasted it. And then the more it sat in the glass and the more I sipped it, and the more I liked it. And by the time I finished the glass, I was liking it quite a bit. But this one I like it right from the get-go, and it's not let up at all.
Yeah, I'm with you, John. My comments are almost identical to yours.
Wow.
What about, there was a question, I think, in the chat. I don't know if you answered it. If it goes in at such a high proof, before they proof it down, what does it come out at? Like when they're ready to?
Yeah. So Waterford being in the south of Ireland benefits from a more temperate climate than Northern Ireland or Western Ireland. So they tend to, in the first year, lose about 4.5 to 5% angel share, and then it drops down a little bit.
Okay.
And they're not losing a lot of alcohol.
Okay.
So some more water, because even though they're right on a river, but where they are, it's not as humid as you would get in parts of Ireland, parts of Scotland. So I don't know what the exact amount ABV is when they take it out of the barrels, but I would imagine it's still in the high 60s.
Okay. Yeah, you would think it would be at least that, such a high proof going in.
Yeah.
All right. Well, those were a really great way to start off. Oh, wait, Holly's got a question.
So worm tubs, Holly, and again, the overripe fruit, both from biodynamic and also the long fermentation process.
So there
But it is worm tubs.
It's worm tubs there? I don't remember.
No, I'm sorry. They're using
Okay.
shell,
Yeah.
not
okay.
worm tubs. They're all shell and tube. Yeah, I'm getting confused because the old, if you go to the old part of the distillery, I don't know if you
Oh,
went
yeah.
to the brewery, you
Yeah.
can see the old
The big
old worm
tub.
tubs there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
That's a
Yeah.
spooky part of the distillery.
all the pigeons are still there flying around. So
Great. Yeah, I think they are.
yeah, they are. So eventually they're going to use part of that for something, but I don't know when. So
And that's where you can pull the cord for the chain for the, I can't remember, somebody pulled the chain for, so the whistle or the clock.
yeah, they used to. So it was either they would pull it when it was, it was end of shift, but usually it was a symbol that it was time to drink beer.
Okay. Very good.
But the story is, if you saw the big fermentation tanks when they were empty, a lot of the employees would fill it with water and use them for bathing.
Okay. So I have a question, Raj. We're supposed to do the safe haven next, right?
Yeah, we're not. We're going to save the safe haven for.
Oh my goodness. So we're skipping the, oh, I got them wrong. Sorry.
Yeah.
I told everybody we were doing the Dailuaine as number 6.
No, we're doing the Dailuaine next.
Ah, okay. My bad. My bad. I messed up. I hope nobody jumped to number 3. Probably somebody did though. All right. So we're doing the Dailuaine next, which is dram number 4. Sorry about that, guys and gals. Let's see here. Let me get some Dailuaine in my glass. All right, so we're moving to Murray McDavid now. So another
Right.
part of Raj's portfolio is the Murray McDavid line, which we've really tasted quite a bit of here in the past couple of months with our tastings. I have to say, I was new to Murray McDavid, and I have not had one that I haven't really loved at this point. So it's been fantastic experience so far, and it's been great selling them too, because I have complete confidence in their ability to produce. And this goes back to Mark Rainier as well, a little bit.
Right. Yeah. Interesting segue. So while Mark was at Bruichladdich, him and Simon Coughlin and maybe the other person's name started Murray McDavid. The names Murray McDavid come from Mark's paternal and maternal grandmothers. So their last names, Murray and McDavid. That's where the name came from. And Mark, as some of you may know, Mark has been in the business for about 40 years. He spent his first 20 years in the wine trade. And that's what he grew up in. His family his grandfather and father were all wine merchants. They had wine shops in the UK and London. Mark had his own chain of wine stores until they were sold to Jeroboam, which is a pretty prestigious London retailer. His father and grandfather also owned vineyards in France. So, and it was funny, it wasn't until probably in the probably the 90s that was the first time that Mark had whiskey, because or maybe the 80s, because before that he had only had wine. And so that's so McDavid, a good question, Dale. McDavid is an independent bottler. They're not a distillery. They are based, their main operation is in Speyside. They probably have at this point about 15,000 or 20,000 barrels of whiskey maturing all over. They're running out of space, so they're building new warehouses. Their main operation site is at the old Colburn Distillery, which was a property that they bought, and they're still using that as a facility. And they've got a few others around the same area. So they're not too far from Dufftown or from where Glenfiddich and Belvini are, location wise. But they have stuff all over the place. They certainly have an ability to purchase lots of barrels, either new make or other stuff. The Dailuaine is 50% ABV. So we're sticking with the 50%. This was 1,357 bottles worldwide from 4 casks, originally matured in bourbon casks and then transferred into Sauternes casks for 14 months. So you have that nice Sauternes finish. McDavid likes to talk about the art of maturation. So they're all about, okay, here's a whiskey. How can we make this different? How can we make this unique? And a lot of times what they're doing is because they still have connections with a lot of top producers of barrels, whether it's wine or port or sherry or whatever else. They're getting those and finishing their whiskeys, or even in some cases first filling their new make into those barrels that they're getting stuff from.
Can you talk a little bit about Dailuaine? I don't know if we've had, maybe we've had one.
Yeah.
Maybe it was a Scotch Malt Whiskey Society bottling of Dailuaine, but I don't think we've had any other bottles from them.
Yeah, well, it's rare to see it. Most of Dailuaine goes into blends.
Okay.
It's seen a lot of Diageo blends, that you may have had. They have in the past, distillery has released some of the flora and fauna releases, but it's rare to see distillery releases. So you have to rely upon releases directly from independent bottlers. That's where you're going to get a lot of these from. I really like Dailuaine. I just like the fruity aspect of it, the figs and the prunes and all those flavors that you traditionally get from Dailuaine.
And what did you say? Did you say ABV on this was 50 also?
It is, correct. Yeah.
And so they're right in the Speyside? Dailuaine?
Yes. Dailuaine is in Speyside, correct.
Yeah, they're
It's,
they're a workhorse for Diageo. And I remember I wanted to go in, obviously, of course, that's not one you can go to, but
Right.
the Airbnb host I was staying with one time, their brother-in-law worked at the effluent Dailuaine plant. And so I was like, any chance I could get into that? So I at least get a sneak peek, and they actually let me in. So
great.
I got into the effluent plant of Diageo.
Wow. And I can't remember, but are they Holly, you might remember this. Are they the first ones to have the Doig Pagoda chimney? I think Dailuaine.
Doig, they might have been. Let me
I think
see.
they're the first ones to have that.
Yeah, I mean, he was based in Speyside, so it had to
Yeah.
be the Elgin region.
Right.
See here.
Holly, if it's the workhorse, where does most of the malt go? Into which blends?
Johnny
Johnny Walker.
Walker.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mostly Johnny Walker Black, and
Mhm.
whereas in red, Cardew is the prominent malt.
Mm.
Um,
So it's in there. It's and that's the thing too. The good thing about working with independent bottlers is we get access to a lot of distilleries that, because the majority of it goes into blends, you normally wouldn't see. So we have the ability to get stuff like Manickmore and Glen Talkers and Dufftown, Dailuaine, Linkwood, things like that, where a lot of those are going into blends.
You were right, Raj. It's the first Doig Pagoda,
Okay.
and they came up with it to the pagodas that you guys see on the distilleries. Those were to help get in the malting process to get some of that peat smoke off of the grain, so that you didn't have as smoky of a whiskey. So that was, you see those all over Scotland now. Obviously, they've become iconic and not necessarily needed at all the distilleries, but they're still used. But yeah, that's a good memory. That's the first one.
Well, they're the
Right,
symbol of the trail.
Mhm. Yeah, they
Yeah.
are the symbol.
And if you remember, I mean, most of, back then, a lot of the distilleries had to use peat as their heat source because there wasn't any other heat source to use for malting. So, you always had some hint of peat in the older malts, which is gone now. So, all right. So Charles's post is 109.99 in the shop for this, and I think we might have a little bit more left. I've ordered some more because there's some more at available through McDavid, but we should have some more coming in May, hopefully. But with the shipping challenges right now, I have no idea. Stuff gets on the water and it tends to the boats there's a lot of container ships sitting off the coast of New York that are just waiting for berth space to come in and unload their cargo.
As long as those people don't realize there's whiskey on board, we're okay. So.
Well, yeah.
This has such a nice long sort of like dark, spicy, dark chocolate mocha finish. Must be part of the Sauternes too, but Dailuaine's a little bit spicy, no?
Yeah, is.
With the fruit.
Yeah, but it's very floral, very fruity. As a lot of Speysides tend to be, but you do get that spicy note in there as well.
Definitely on the tongue.
Yeah, definitely at the front of the tongue, you're getting that. Yep. Yeah, but it's one of my I really like what they do. I think they make great malts.
That's great.
So is it Dailuaine or Dailuaine?
Well, I've always pronounced it Dailuaine, but some people say Dailuaine. So
I mean, it's the American way, right? We want to pronounce every single letter
Right.
we see. So
Hey.
I pronounce it Dailuaine.
Dailuaine. Okay. Not to be confused with Dalwhinnie.
Oh,
But,
I've never pronounced it before in my life, so
there you go. I think it's Dailuaine. So
All right. Well, I just learned something there. It's don't pronounce the E at the end. Dailuaine.
Dailuaine.
right.
All right.
There are several websites you can go to and get the correct pronunciation, the correct Gaelic pronunciation for it. So,
But can you trust them? I don't know. I mean, obviously a lot of them are right, but sometimes I'm like, I don't believe it. I'll have to go and ask again.
yeah, well, I guess you just have to go to the distillery and see how the employees
Okay.
what they call it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that'd be a great trip to plan to be able to go to all of the distilleries that are not open to the public.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The closed distilleries tour. That'd be.
Sounds like a very short tour.
No, there's a lot of them that are not open to the public. So
Yeah, you have to have really good connections for that one.
yeah, that's very funny, Matt. Pronounced Kiev. That's great.
That's pronounced.
Maybe we could get a boat and take a tour of all the ships in New York Harbor with the samples and.
Yeah. Unfortunately, the containers are not marked with what's in them, so you'd be guessing. But yeah, it's
So we're gonna take a really around the world turn on
Yep.
our next whiskey. We're gonna actually jump to India for our next dram tonight, which is quite out of the ordinary when it comes to a lineup like this. So this is going to be really fun. So we're going to get a little bit. So the Advent calendar that we did the year before last, not this last year, but the year before last, we had an Amrut Fusion Cask Strength, or maybe it was just Amrut Cask Strength. I can't remember, but really fantastic. Pretty much the introduction of Amrut to the club. We've had Paul John in the past, but it was great. I thought it was a fantastic whiskey. And then these single casks now are appearing, which really are just, I mean, amazing that we can even get whiskey like this in the US, because there's so few bottles to begin with. And they can't even get this in India, right? This is just for the USA market.
Right. So these are the Aatma label are single casks just for the US. Something that I designed just for the US market. So, and I select the casks. So last year we did. No, that's right.
You're doing all of that? You're designing and selecting?
Yeah.
Wow.
So what happened is the first single cask for the US that we got, it had the Bengal tiger label on it, because we were told by Ashok, who's the head distiller, yeah, it's fine to use it. And it turned out that label actually belongs to their Taiwanese importer. So we were told we no longer had to do it. So I had to come up with a different thing. And instead of a tiger, I figured, well, an elephant, because an elephant never forgets. And the name Aatma is a Sanskrit word meaning spirit. So I thought that was appropriate that we use that for it. And so all of these they always have the same label, but the bottom will tell you the specifics on it. So this particular one was aged in a ex-Fino sherry cask. It's all 100% unpeated Indian barley. It was filled in January of 2016 and bottled in June of 2021. So just over 5 years. I know we've had some younger whiskeys because of the Waterfords, but one thing to bear in mind with Amrut is, because Amrut is in India and it's in the south of India, it is 3,000 feet above sea level. It benefits from the climatic conditions that are there. And it means that their angel share or their evaporation rate is about 10 to 12% a year. So if you think about it, in 5 years, 50% of their barrel has gone. You get some very happy angels circling around Amrut distillery. So it's rare to see older Amruts. We just released a 12-year-old, which is their oldest one ever. They did a 12-year-old a while ago, but this time we only got 36 bottles for the US, and they're all gone. So if you find one, I think there's a few in New York, but yeah, they're quite amazing. So this was bottled at 56.5 or 113 proof.
Where does the barley come from? Like what
So
part?
this is all the barley for if it's Indian barley, it all grows in the north of India in Punjab and Rajasthan.
Okay.
It is a 6-row barley rather than a 2-row barley. So you get smaller granules. You're getting a lower yield, but you're getting less carbs, more protein. So it makes for a richer distillate. Amrut, none of these are chill filtered or color added to them. They're all natural. This Amrut uses a variety of different barrels, but this particular one, as I said, was an ex-Fino cask. It was funny because I was given 4 different sister casks to taste and to nose and decide on. And this one to me was the richest. The other three had sort of an overwhelming sulfur note to them. But this has got a little sulfury, but not really a lot on there.
I get a
I don't know
hint.
how many. Sorry, go ahead.
I get a hint of the sulfur. That's the one thing I noticed. The sherry, the Fino hits you right away on the nose. And if I had a list of my top 10 whiskeys, Amrut's up there because I've been a fan of the Amrut Fusion. That just blew me away. When it was the first Indian whiskey I tasted, and I have a bottle, haven't been able to find another one, but that one I cherish. The
Well,
Amrut.
Fusion's regularly available. It's one of the mainstays. So
Yeah, I actually have a friend who said, "Oh, I'm going to New Jersey. I know where to get it because I haven't seen it up here." So
yeah, we've as I mentioned about logistics and supply issues before, we've been out of Amrut. We had a shipment that came in early January and it all disappeared, or late December. We have another container that was supposed to be here 4 weeks ago, and it's now scheduled to be at port on Sunday. So we'll see, but we have a large, about 600 cases of Fusion and single malt coming in. So
nice. I'll be getting
Do
another
they-
bottle.
Do they use the 6-row because that's what's available? Or is the protein really, I'm not sure why that adds the richness, but is that why it's chosen or just because it's
yeah,
there?
it's so the Indian Agricultural Commission designated this specific strain of barley to be used for all brewing and distilling. So all Indian beer is made from the same barley strain as the whiskeys are. There's I don't know which varietal or strain of barley it is. All I know is it's 6-row. So you get, because you get smaller granules in there, you're getting less per stock of barley.
And the protein content is higher, which
Correct.
is why it's not as favored for
Correct.
brewing.
Correct. Yeah. But this is yeah. So all of the Aatmas are always bottled at 56.5. There's some strange regulations we have to deal with in India. The highest that alcohol strength that Amrut's allowed to bottle anything is 62.8, which is for the peated cask strength. They cannot bottle anything higher than that. Everything that's sold in India is a maximum of 46%. So like the Fusion and is bottled at 46% for the Indian market. So there's some tighter regulations there. But I love this whiskey. This is probably my second favorite Amrut. My first favorite is a port cask that we did a number of years ago.
I think I wrote correctly.
That was the Indian barley in port for the entire time.
I mean,
Raj,
this tastes like port wine by itself. I mean, it's,
It's-
I want to have
It
some
does,
like
actually.
nice bread pudding with this.
Is the port wine that you did a few years ago the same as the port wine that is on the market recently?
The
Or are there different ones?
The first one we ever did was the port cask. Bengal Tiger was port, and we've done 2 since then. The most recent one we did was exclusively for the Southern California Whiskey Club.
Okay.
So it's only available through K&L.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if any of it's left, but it's
We had a
whiskey.
port cask in the shop when.
we got one
Yeah, so that
bottle.
would have been one of the Aatmas that we did. And we do have, I wonder if I have any of it left. Yeah, so Amrut does a whiskey called Portanova,
Okay.
which has been not available for a couple of years, but it's coming back into the market, new labeling. But it's bottled at 62.1, and it is bourbon, port, and then back into bourbon cask. But you can see that gorgeous port color, ruby port color that comes out of there.
This would
So-
be fantastic with a cigar. I'm
Yeah,
telling
so we'll have, that will be back in April, hopefully. It's on the next container that's coming out, so.
Raj, you had mentioned, obviously there's still strict rules in India, but we're always told for some of the Indian brands that in India, these aren't being drank. Is that still the case, or is it catching on in India that, hey, we make good whiskey?
Yeah.
Is it going to be an issue with, meeting local demand like it happened in Australia and Tasmania and other New World producers?
That's a good question, Holly. I mean, so Amrut, when it was first released, was, as their single malts, was only export only.
Mhm.
And that's because that Neil Jackdahl, who was the managing director, the founder's son who was operating it, felt strongly that the Indian market wasn't ready for single malt whiskeys. If anyone here's been to India, you know that most of the whiskey that is, or labeled whiskey in India, is not really whiskey, could not be whiskey anywhere else in the world, because it's made from a neutral molasses spirit with some imported whiskey or some grain alcohol added to it and sold as whiskey.
Mm.
And that's largely because of some of the big Scottish producers who came into India in the late 80s, who decided to cheapen the prices and the quality of the whiskeys to sell more. But now you're getting a huge demand for single malts, and you're getting a lot of people, Indian consumers, who are really gravitating towards the single malts. There's 6 producers right now that are making enough volume to be able to export. Amrut was the first one, and then Paul John after that. Now you have Rampur, you have Kamit, you have there's one more that's escaping my mind right now, but and you have a few more coming. The demand, so when, for example, when Amrut releases Fusion into the local market, it sells out within 24 hours. The current demand outweighs supply 5 to 1. So there's a battle internally going on with the fellow who runs the domestic market, saying, well, we need more for the domestic market, and the board saying, no, the focus is on the international market, and that comes first, and then we'll fill the domestic market later, and we can. So there's small amounts that trickle into the domestic market, but they can sell a lot more.
Sorry, you may have just answered my question, that I was going to ask if anybody is warehousing further north and higher elevations to be able to age it longer, but it sounds like they want to be able to sell it sooner.
Well, no, that's a good question. So Rampur, for example, is based northern India. So they have a slower maturation process. Paul John is in Goa. So they have a different maturation process because it's higher humidity. So you're not going to see Paul John with high alcohol levels that you see with Amrut, for example. Nobody wants to rush their whiskey. They just want to make sure that it's an element of the environment in which they're in, depending on how quickly or how slowly it's going to mature.
Thank you.
All right.
Raj, I have a question. Is there a profile of in Indian whiskey or Indian barley or anything produced in India that drinkers should be looking at to compare bottles together, right? Because we have profiles for different types of Scotch and Irish and all those types of things, but Indian it's its own thing. So if there's a typical profile.
Yeah. So if I was to compare like Indian barley, so if you drink 100% Indian barley made single malt, typically you're going to get notes of fennel, citrus, a little dark chocolate, a little cocoa. That's typically what comes out of it. But obviously, depending on where it's matured and the stills, the cuts they take, there's all these factors that go into it. So you can't say this is the typical element of it. Just like in Scotland, I mean, 60% of the barley that's used in Scotland is imported because there's not enough barley that grows in the British Isles to be able to supply it. So you're looking at a lot of barley coming from the Ukraine, the Middle East, from Canada, other places to fill the market. And most distillers don't care where the barley is coming from, what kind of barley it is. They just want, the cheapest barley they can get, because they want to turn that quickly into spirit, fill barrels.
Are there then, just to follow that, are there then more regional, if it's not distillery specific, but
Yeah.
more regional, given the space that how large India is and the climate differences?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I'm just gonna grab. Yeah, no, sorry.
While he's grabbing that, Matthew, profiling is not something we're supposed to be pushing.
Well, not profiling, but I think the question will probably more is leaning towards the style, of the area. But Amrut,
As long as we don't unnecessarily attack any whiskeys.
So Amrut just recently worked on a new project called the Single Malts of India, where they are sourcing single malts from smaller distilleries who don't have the wherewithal to be able to market and mature it properly. So the first one they released was called Nidal. It is from a small distillery in the south of India. This is 100% peated Indian barley.
Wow.
And bottled at 46%. The next one, there is a next one that's planned. That's from another distillery that will be available later this year. I was really impressed with this. It reminded me sort of blend of Ardmore and Kalila, or Lafroig and Kalila, or sorry, Lagavulin and Kalila blended together. Just if you can find it, there's plenty of it available. I would highly recommend this as an example of the different single malts that are coming out of India.
Raj, do you import a lot of different Indian whiskeys?
No, we only do Amrut. I've been offered all of them, but Amrut was our first, and I'm staying true to them. We were offered Paul John, but I said no to them.
Mm-hmm. I'd be very interested in doing an Indian whiskey tasting. Obviously, Amrut's phenomenal, but with some of these other ones as well, and maybe some of these ones that Amrut's putting out.
Yep.
From these smaller distilleries, that would be amazing.
Well, I'm trying to. We had some plans. I spoke to my fellow importers of Indian whiskey that we should do something like that, but obviously COVID's been an issue. We want to do something in person, but our plan is to do, the top Indian single malts are available in the U.S. and just to sort of create that whole image about them and get people more aware of them.
And you said Amrut's from Rajasthan?
No, the barley grows in Punjab and Rajasthan.
Okay. And
the
where?
Distillery is in Bangalore.
Oh, okay. So it's still southern.
It is southern, but it's central. It's not coastal. 3,000
right.
feet above sea level. So the temperatures in the winter about 75, about 120 in the summer. Humidity about 45 in the winter, about 75 in the summer. So Ashok likes to say Amrut's the missing link between Kentucky and Scotland. So they're making single malts, but they're maturing like they would in Kentucky.
Yeah, what I'm seeing is some of the more interesting whiskeys right now in the world are coming from places that have significant temperature swings, especially on the hot side. I mean, whether you're talking about Taiwan or even Japan or Australia, et cetera, or Israel for that matter too, with the milk and honey. And then also Kentucky too with the bourbon. It's just, I think, an interesting phenomenon.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's great. I mean, it's great to be a whiskey lover in this day and age, to have all of those. It's not so great because of the prices that are creeping up, but I mean, if I had bought more whiskey 20 years ago, I'd be a very rich man. But unfortunately, I still get to try a lot of whiskeys because I get things sent to me and I get to taste a lot of different stuff. But certainly, it's really an exciting time in the world to see what's going on. So, yeah. But
Well, that was
the,
fantastic. That was a definite highlight of the night so far. That Fino is incredible. So we're gonna go back to Scotland,
yep.
somewhere in Scotland. I don't know where, but we're going to a new edition, or at least the first edition. There is a third edition that we have also in the shop, but
Yep.
we're gonna go to Sherry Snake from Blackadder, and let's talk Blackadder a little bit because we haven't mentioned them
yep.
yet.
So Blackadder was the first independent bottler we started importing. Blackadder celebrated 25 years ago last year, I think. So it's family run operation started by Robin Tuchik. And now it's Robin and his son and daughter who run it. I think what Blackadder is most known for is their raw cask. So the raw cask, and which the Sherry Snake is part of, is one where there's very little filtration. So you get all the barrel char in the bottles. Charles, I don't know if you have a bottle of the Sherry Snake there that you can.
I do. It's empty.
That's empty. Is there any char left in the bottom?
No, we have another one.
Okay.
Oh, I mean, we have a little bit of the Peat Reek. You can see the char
yeah,
at
yeah.
the bottom
Yeah.
of the Peat Reek.
Right. So Sherry Snake is one of the things that was released last year, and I don't know what happened to batch 2. Oh, batch 2 all went to Japan, but batch 1 and batch 3, and I said, oh yeah, well, we'll take 20 cases of each, thinking that, we'll see if it sells or not. Unfortunately, it all went very quickly and we're sold out. So I asked Robin the other day about, can I get a cask of Sherry Snake? And he said, well, we're having difficulty getting the quality of it from the supplier, but we do have one in the works, and I can give you, I think we're getting 30 cases of it. So
nice.
a little bit of improvement, but not a lot, but we don't know when that will be available. But it is something that, I am a strong believer in Blackadder. I think that everything that they do is quality. I'll give you an example that a number of years ago, there was Robin had a cask of Glengarry that was, I think, a 21 or 22-year-old that I had ordered, and 6 months went by and I never heard anything about it. And I said, I finally called Robin and said, where's this, this Glengarry that we ordered? And he said, well, I wasn't happy with it, so we re-racked it, and I'll decide if it's going to be right or not. So, he's got a lot of integrity that instead of saying, okay, this is, we're going to bottle this and we're going to throw it in the marketplace, if it's not the quality that he wants, he won't bottle it.
And this is 61.9%.
Yep. But I guarantee you it does not taste like that.
No, it does not. It's pretty amazing. I've been a big Blackadder fan for a while, and similar to my more recent Murray McDavid love, Blackadder is also one of those independent bottlers that you pretty much out of the gate know it's going to be good. And I met Robin and his daughter at the Chichibu Festival.
Right.
Actually, right before COVID shut the world down. So that was pretty exciting.
Because I was there in 2019.
This was 2020.
Okay.
This was a few weeks before everything closed.
Yeah.
We probably all caught COVID somehow at the festival. I mean, it was packed, but it was fun meeting him. Such a character. I've only seen pictures of him, and it's exciting that his daughter is involved as well and gonna be there for the long run. So this is fantastic. I love this.
So here, this is a thing that if you get, so I'm a strong, anyone who knows me will know how much I like cask strength whiskeys. That's my first go-to. My preference is single cask strength whiskeys. If I can't get a single cask, I'll go to cask strength. And then I might look at some of the other stuff, but I'm a believer in that if it went into the barrel did its job and it's coming out of the barrel, I don't want anything else altering it so I can taste it. I want to taste the true essence of the whiskey. And the raw cask series, Robin likes to say that this is the way whiskey used to be. So in the, the early 1900s, if you went into a pub in Scotland, you would not see a wall of whiskey. All right. You would just say, give me a whiskey, and the barkeep would just pull right from the barrel that was sitting on the ground from the local distillery. So you get all of the fats and oils and all the flavor in there. Everything was pure and true. And when you get something like the raw cask series from Blackadder, nothing's been added to it. Nothing's been done to it. You're getting all of the goodness, all of the flavors, all of everything that's great. And that's why you can drink the high proof stuff, and it's not going to give you that burn. It's not going to give you anything else. You can enjoy it just the way it is.
Yeah, we did the red snakes a few tastings ago, and same thing. Just you just don't, the one knock, and I'm gonna say this because I love Blackadder and I wish more people would love Blackadder. We have people who come in here and they see the snake on the bottle and they're like, oh, like what is this? You're giving me venom, juice or something like that. But these snake bottles have been so great. We did the Puff Adder last week as well, which was fantastic. And they're like hidden gems that people don't, until they taste it, which obviously they can't that easily unless they buy a bottle. It's hard to know what it is, or like, what is this? So do you have any idea? I mean, I know you can't give the distillery, but
So I will tell you that red snake and black snake are all from the same distillery.
Okay.
They're all single barrels. So a number of years ago, I did a vertical of 6 different red snakes.
Okay.
All sister casks, and just to show how the barrel influences the whiskey. So all from the same distillery, all matured at the same time, same length of time, but you had ranges from it being, vanilla creme brulee to it being spicy with, some pepperiness and other things going on there. So, that's all the barrel talking to you. And when you do a vertical like that, you really see what the barrel influences on the spirit.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
So we actually have some new red snakes just arriving, including 2 peated red snakes, which we've never seen before. So those should be interesting.
And kudos to the rum barrels too from Blackadder.
Yes, that was an interesting. About 5 years ago, when Robin started doing rum, he said to me, "Should I do these at what strength should I do them at?" And I said, "Do them at raw cask. Don't do anything to them. Just put them the way they in." And so he's been doing that, and every rum that we bring in from them is incredible. We had 4 different Panama rums most recently, and just arriving on the current inventory are a number of rare rums like Jamaica New Yarmouth, 26-year-old.
What?
Yep, some bent
Charles?
Beanley from
Ollie?
Australia. Some Money Musk.
Yeah, the Money Musk is great.
Yeah, and so they're really great. And then we're working with a new supplier that is doing single barrels of Jamaican rum as well. So we're gonna have. I selected a Long Pond and a Money Musk for us.
Oh, it's not a Foursquare. You have a Foursquare as well, right?
Yeah, we have a Foursquare from Blackadder, and we also have our own. We do our own rum casks and whiskey casks.
Wait. What do you mean?
My company does. Rum Runner is our own label for rum.
They're coming, John.
And so we have a 15-year-old Foursquare, a 14-year-old Foursquare, a 15-year-old, and a 16-year-old Venezuelan that are coming. And they were they were initially offered to Total Wine as part of their concierge program.
Okay.
So everything I finally got what sales they had, and everything that's left is all going to New York.
Sweet.
Yeah, we were talking to Brett today about
Yeah.
it, so.
So 6 or 7 cases of each of the Foursquare and the Venezuelan that we bottled. And our whiskey is bottled under the Dram Hunter label, and we just did a 34-year-old Invergordon and a 14-year-old Lecheg that spent 3 years in one of our rum barrels to finish off.
We're getting those as well. So
Yeah.
good stuff coming.
You are.
Nice.
Yeah. So those are all barrels that I oversee when we select and oversee them. So
Raj, you mentioned, I guess I'm getting confused. What's the black snake? Do we have that here in New York or the States?
you did. I think we're out of it. We're waiting for more. So Black
Okay.
Snake is it's a modified Solera system, Holly, where
Okay,
Robin takes sherry butts and he'll put 3 barrels of single malt into it. And then he will take 2/3 out of the sherry butt and then refill it. So every time it comes out is called a venom. So you get the VAT number and the venom number. And they're always in either PX or Oloroso casks.
So it is.
okay.
Yeah.
It's
I don't know if
true.
there's any left, if PM has any, but the last one we had was number 14, which was, I bought all of it for the US. There was about 400 cases of it, 400 bottles of it, but we're all sold out. So
Okay. Yeah, we have red
What's
snake
the
and
Chimera?
Chimera is a mythological creature.
Yeah.
But it's made up, if it's a blended malt, it's made up of different components, just like the mythological creature. Every release of Chimera is going to be different because it's always a single batch. And the most recent Chimera we have is a cask strength 50, I think 59% ABV. So we've never had a cask strength Chimera before.
So we have that one. So we don't know what's in it.
I will tell you that there is 2 Speyside single malts, including one 15-year-old it's a sherry cask, one Islay component, and one Highland.
Wow.
Those are the 4 malts going into it.
I might need one of those in my cellar.
someone just bought that and asked me, so now I can give them a little
Yeah.
wink, wink. Thanks, Raj.
All right.
This
Yes.
is
Did
really-
someone say Lecheg? Yes, we have. I'm a big fan of Lecheg, and we have 2 Blackadder Lechegs coming in and our own cask of it as well.
Oh, nice.
Lecheg's one of our favorites for sure.
Yep.
Yep.
All right, so I think I'm sensing let's move to Peat. So should we do the Safe Haven?
All right, we're gonna move to Peat.
Okay. So Safe Haven, we're going back to Murray McDavid. Safe Haven is under the Mystery Malt series of Murray McDavid. So they don't disclose the distillery, but this is 6 years old. There was 2,285 bottles from 6 casks, originally in bourbon, and then it was transferred to a PX sherry cask for 6 months of finishing. Now, if anybody knows Gaelic and wants to try to translate what Safe Haven means in Gaelic, you will find out what the name of the distillery is.
Aha.
All right, Shalom, get on it.
I'm
I'm
doing
on it, man. I'm on it.
The ironic thing is,
I'll
we
be back,
we already
Colton.
mentioned the
We'll get
distillery
it.
just shortly. So
The gauntlet has been thrown.
This is like one of those Wordles. Come on now.
Mhm. Well, we could turn around and look since we're standing in the parking lot.
This is
Tobermory.
Gaelic Wordle.
So it is distillery that somebody just mentioned.
Tobermory?
Nope.
Worry.
Well, you're close, but what's the peated?
Leche.
Leche.
There you go.
Leche.
This is
I
This is-
said it. I win.
Yeah.
Hey.
All right, light chick, yeah.
But here's an example of a 6-year-old whiskey that is just fantastic.
All right.
50% ABV.
50% ABV. Just delicious. That 6 months in PX sherry really added a nice element to it.
What's the price on this, Charles?
$68.99.
And we have lots of it.
Oh, it's got that wonderful lychee.
Yeah. So it's interesting. I mean, when Murray McDavid, when they put it into different casks to finish it or mature it in something else, they don't want to overwhelm the natural flavor of the whiskey. They want to make sure that it is still integral to it. So in this case, you can still taste the Lechek.
It's I don't know how to describe it. It's kind of like a green peat, like it's almost like smoked spinach or something.
Interesting.
Hickory.
Okay.
Smells like hickory wood.
Hickory wood, yeah, I get hickory wood. Yeah. So green, I'm just running green peat. So you're not getting seaweed.
It's the brininess is very light. It's not.
Right.
It's not like Talisker or Colila or so. It's
Yeah.
It's much lighter on the brine.
Yeah, I often find Lechek isn't as briny as like some of the Islay malts, but
This is
I'm a big fan of it. I think that there was a period of time when the most recent distillery releases were not great. You counted on some of the independent bottlers, but I think they've gone back to old school, and some of the newer ones coming out from the distillery are back to the way it used to be.
I'm getting a touch of lemon in here too.
Yeah, you do get some citrusy. It's more like sort of a lemon pledge kind of note in there.
I also get a little bit of peaches.
Peaches, yeah.
When we were at Tobermory and we tasted their Leipzig, it was like the worst thing I've ever had. I actually have a bottle, but this is so different. And you're right, the lemon pledge is coming through, and this is wonderful.
To me, it's like a candy, almost like candied fruits. I'm even getting a little clove on in here as well.
Sorry, what was the last word, Vince? A little what?
Cloves.
Clove. Okay, yeah. So some of that
Cloves.
baking spice kind of notes that are in there. Yeah. Yeah, I
I'm
agree
sorry,
with I agree with Jolly Ranchers. You get that sort of
It might be.
maybe lemon or that green apple Jolly Rancher flavor that's comes through there.
You got me with the worst thing I ever tasted, and we have a bottle. That just kills me. That's terrible. I'll take a bottle. So,
We have a bottle
Wait,
too.
wait, wait.
it's so
Were
great.
you forced to buy it?
Yeah.
Ann and Peter, were you forced to buy that or?
Oops, they're on mute.
Sorry, I didn't realize we were muted. We bought it here after coming home for some reason.
Oh, okay. Memory.
And it
of
was
the-
like,
the-
yeah.
Tasted better there. I don't know.
The Tobermory was like very nice, but the Leipzig.
Mhm.
So we were on a rail train going up to Malig, and we asked somebody about how do you pronounce
How
the
come,
word.
how
How
come
come?
Malig is pronounced Malig and Leipzig is pronounced Leipzig, and it basically spelled the same? And the answer was, well, it depends what it means.
Yeah, there you go.
What's the
Makes sense.
ABV?
Yeah, that makes sense.
ABV is 50.
50. Yeah. I don't think we've not had anything below 50 today, right? No.
No.
Yeah, and that's where I like it to say. Somebody mentioned when's the rum taste. I think we should. Yeah, it's probably next. We should do a rum tasting.
Oh, we will. We'll get you on, Raj, because we
All right.
have a number of Blackadder rums, and when those new ones come in, we'll add those to the mix. And yeah, that'll be great.
Great.
Raj, for Tobermory, I feel like it wasn't, I guess Signatory has them too. The Lecheg, you'll find them, but you don't see a ton of Tobermory. I know Murray McDavid has one. Do they sell Lecheg
Yeah.
more often, or why don't we get none of
You're seeing
Tobermory?
more of it being sold, but you're seeing a lot of it too, Holly, that where they're not allowing distilleries to use the name of
Mhm.
Leitchick anymore. But Tobermory, I mean, we had a 20-year-old Murray McDavid that was quite nice. We just finished
Mhm.
selling it out. But it is rare. I think just they don't produce a lot. They, so a lot of it just gets sold into
Yeah.
the normal markets.
I guess I thought they produced more unpeated Tobermory and Lecheg was the specialty, but then you see more Lecheg in IBs. So I was like, what's
Yeah.
going on here? Because I would say Tobermory is a little bit, the core range is a little bit scarier for
Yeah.
some people. It's like
I agree.
cucumber butter. It's
Yeah.
a little funky.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, so I don't know what, I mean, they're, who knows what they're deciding to do, but
Yeah.
we'll see.
Yeah,
what
they've
comes out.
kind of totally changed everything. I mean, when we were there a few years ago, they were putting in new stills, and I mean,
Yeah.
it's going to be a whole new ball game there.
Well, concerning where they're based, they spend a lot of time thinking.
Yeah.
Raj, what you-
Not a bad place to think.
That's right. Yeah.
You've talked
Yeah.
a bit about the wine world a couple of times with Mark, et cetera, and his experience there in the past, et cetera. And one thing I've learned from wine is, especially with imports, is that, vintages are one thing and it's good, but you learn that in certain importers you can trust.
Right.
And what they tend to carry tends to be good. And that's what I'm finding here is that, I mean, this has been with one more to go, this has been a sensational tasting.
Thank you.
And just having tasted other examples of some of these other brands or bottlings, I know it's a lot wider than even just this selection. It's been really, really good. And, certainly now know to look out for, your importing imprimatur.
Well, thank you. I mean, it's interesting. Somebody the other day asked me about, why don't you provide tasting notes and things? And I said, well, because it's, everyone tastes different things. If I taste this, you might not taste it. But I said, the way I learned, especially in the wine world, was getting somebody who I trusted their palate on it. So, and I tasted alongside him at different releases and, made sure that I guess either my palate was already aligned or aligned my palate to that to make sure. So I started trusting him on what was coming in. And there's a lot of, as you mentioned, John, wine importers in the US that, if their name is behind it, like if it's a Kermit Lynch or Rosenthal or something like that, it's going to be good. And that's the kind of reputation that I like to have for our company, is that whatever we touch is good. We're not going to import anything that I wouldn't drink myself.
And John, Raj won't say it, but Charles and I both know too, he was one of the first portfolios we wanted to bring in. And luckily you're with a good distributor too, so that made it easier. But Raj has been iconic in the whiskey world for a long time. So everything he touches, we bring in. We don't taste things that Raj has before they come in. We bring them in. So very highly regarded for a long time.
Isn't his nickname Midas?
No. Well, Holly and Charles, I was so excited when you guys opened last year that I just couldn't wait to come there in person, but this is the next best thing. But
yeah, well, you're welcome whenever you want.
Yeah, and I will be there.
We'll get
Dave Tobias asking, distribute in Maryland. Yes, we distribute in Maryland through Prestige LaDroit. There are
Where in North Carolina are you?
Sorry, Durham. Yeah.
Okay. A friend of mine just opened a wine shop in Raleigh.
Oh yeah, Raleigh's not far.
Or is opening it.
Okay. But I'll be up in Buffalo tomorrow. So.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. All right.
All right. So we're gonna
last one.
Nice. I'm not sure I would say nice.
Well, nice for him.
Really?
It's not
Nice for Buffalo.
It's,
Hey, Raj, are you by chance going to see Bob Layton in Buffalo?
No, I'm there for Whiskey Riot, the whiskey show.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't
We tried-
know.
you know, Raj,
I
we
don't know
tried
Bob
to-
Layton, or should I?
If you have time, there's an exceptional wine shop called Brighton Liquors.
Okay.
Bob's the proprietor.
Okay.
It's one of those shops where you can buy a fifth, or you can buy a bottle of Screaming Eagle, and everything in between.
Okay.
Yeah.
Brighton Liquors. All right, I will check it out.
Tell them.
Tell them Patrick and Ann Carroll saying
Yeah.
All right, I will do
You know him
that.
very
you
well.
need to use a family connection.
Okay. Okay.
Raj, I assume you're familiar with the Lucky Day in Buffalo?
Yes.
Okay, I was gonna say, that's the place I go to drink whiskey.
All right. Good.
Yeah, so we were gonna see you at the Whiskey Riot, but they didn't want another store appearance. I guess they have a connection to one store. We wanted to have our single barrels there and reach Western New York, but I guess that wasn't going to happen. So, all right.
Well, we'll find a way. So
yes, we will. All right, so let's move on to a special bottle that we don't have in the shop yet. Hopefully we get some. I don't know if we're getting any of this or not.
I bought all of this, so all 300 and
Oh, I see how it is.
344 bottles. This is bottle number 339 of it, but we have we have some of it left. I think PM ordered some, so
Really?
you'll be able to get it.
I don't know. See it on
So
our
this is so Peat Reek. So Blackadder does two sort of proprietary labels. One's called Smoking Islay.
Hey, hold on, Raj, before you go. If you guys look in your glasses, some of you are going to have char. That not everybody. It depends what part of the bottle I was pouring from. I tried to shake it up a little bit before I poured, but hopefully you all got a little piece of char in there.
Yeah, so there's a little bit in my glass, you can see. But so Blackadder does one called Smoking Islay, which is always from Islay, and it's a very smoky, then peaty whiskey. And then they do Peat Reek, which is always more peaty than smoky. And Peat Reek can either be from Islay or not from Islay, but this particular one is a 10-year-old Islay. It says right on there, Islay single malt whiskey, 20 ppm on there, and like I said, it's an exclusive Glass Revolution Dram Hunter selection just for the U.S. market that I selected. So people are already starting to guess. John is saying Kalila. This is 57.7%. I'm not going to comment until other people have had a chance to get their nose in there. But
I don't think it's Kalila.
So where
it's sweeter and less smoky than Kalila or Lafroig. I don't think it's either of those two.
I would make it Ardbeg.
No.
Ardbeg, you're going to be very hard pressed to see Ardbeg with an independent bottler.
It's not as smoky as those.
It's too sweet for Ardbeg.
Too sweet. It's more peat. I mean, it could be most of the Bunnahabhains have been in a sherry cask or a port cask when they peat it, but
is it a Lafroig?
It's not as smoky as Lafroig.
Yeah, Buna.
It does have that seaside brininess to it, though.
It does.
Could be a Bowmore.
Yeah, it's could be. Yeah, it
It's a
does.
45-year-old Portellin.
I wish. This is so it is an Islay single malt. It does have the smell of burning peat. So it's got great phenols in it. As Holly mentioned earlier about Dailuaine being a workhorse for Johnny Walker, for Diageo, You know, Kalila is the workhorse for peated whiskey for Diageo, producing the most peated whiskey that goes into everything. I'm not saying that this is Kalila, but
You're not saying it's not.
I'm not saying it's not. It's not. So there have been peat reeks that have been blended malts, which have been Lafroig and Kalila, or Kalila and Bamor blended together. But this is certainly a single malt from one distillery. And I initially thought it's Kalila, but I just opened it today. I haven't tried this yet. I just opened it.
Raj,
So
we won't tell anybody.
Promise.
you know what, there was a point at when the Morrisons owned Bamor. It was incredible what Bamor was doing, but when it was sold to the Japanese, the quality sort of deteriorated. But to me, this might even be old. It can't be old because it's 10 years old, but it might even be classic Bamor.
Really?
Hey, Raj, this might be a naive question, and for that I apologize. But can you help explain the commercials behind why distillers may or may not want people buying their product to know what it is? Like help me understand what the end game is.
So
Why the card game?
Yeah. So some distillers will, when they sell to independents, they don't have a problem having the name of the distillery being used. Other ones don't want it because they think that it might sully or affect the reputation of the distillery. Okay. They also don't want consumers knowing that it's available somewhere else. It's quite the dilemma. I mean, I think a lot of distilleries, they sell to independents because they can get cash right away. They don't have to mature, pay to mature the whiskey.
Yeah.
Diageo is notorious for every year doing their calculations and saying, okay, this is what we need for our blends. This is extra. So we have these many casks available, and they'll tell, okay, if you want Kalila, you got to buy 30 casks of it, or 100 casks, and maybe we'll give you 2 of this if you buy 100 of this. And the problem is you can't taste any of it before you buy it. So you buy it, comes down to your warehouse, you have barrel samples, you say, okay, I'm going to keep this, I'm going to keep that, I'm going to sell off the rest. And oftentimes when you buy, if you're the original buyer, and then you're reselling, there's restrictions saying if you resell, you can't disclose the distillery name. So whether you buy from a broker or you're buying directly from a distillery, it's going to affect what you can and cannot disclose.
Okay. So it's all about controlling the brand.
Yeah. I mean, for example, if you've ever heard of Wardhead or what's the other one that
Blair Findy, right? With Blackadder.
Yeah, Blair Findy, but also so there's Glenfiddich and Balvenie often. So they'll often do this. There's something called teaspoon whiskeys. I don't know if anybody's ever heard of a teaspoon whiskey. That's where allegedly a teaspoon of the sister distilleries whiskey is put into a barrel of the other ones, and you can't call it a single malt. You can't use the distillery name. So if it's Balvenie with a teaspoon of Glenfiddich in it, it's sometimes sold as Burnside. And if it's Glenfiddich with a teaspoon of Balvenie in it, it's sold as Wardhead.
Okay.
And the good thing is, if you know that, you pay a lot less for it than you would if you were paying for the full price. So we have a 32-year-old Blackadder Wardhead coming in. I bought the entire cask of it, but we're only getting, the cask only yielded 90 bottles. So it had a lot of loss. But it's, you're getting a 32-year-old Glenfiddich for a third of the price that you would pay if it was real Glenfiddich. Or labeled as Glenfiddich.
Can
Sorry,
we
not
get a
real.
bottle of that?
As soon as it comes in, yeah, I might keep a few bottles for myself, Charles, but yeah, it will go to the
This
people that
video-
show us the love, we show the love to them.
This
So.
video is being recorded. So I just want you to know that you
All
joined
right.
late, so you didn't hear that. So
So Raj, we want to show you the love. I want a bottle of this.
Yeah, me too.
The bottle of this Peat Reek.
The Peat Reek.
Okay.
Yep.
Great.
My- my-
how do we get
my-
that, Raj?
You'll get it through Charles and Holly. So they will have some shortly. So
My two favorites are the Peat Reek and the Amrut.
thank you. I like that.
Amrut's on sale today.
6 of the 7 drams scored in the 90s. What was the other one? In 100?
What was that?
87. Well, that's great. That's good. Thank you. Which one was 87?
Good lineup. I had the Dynamic as the 87.
Yeah, I had the Biodynamic lower than that. The Biodynamic was my least favorite of the night.
Yeah. Oh, that's fair. It's just
Still excellent, but compared to the others, I was 92, 93 on others.
okay.
The Biodynamic was a good one. to start
Biodynamic
with.
was, sorry. Biodynamic was amazing.
But you won't have to drink always. It's okay.
That's why there are thousands of different single malts, because there's one for each different palate.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with
Biodynamic was one of my favorites, but so was the Amrut. The Amrut and Biodynamic.
Okay, Vinny,
My-
we'll be right over.
Biodynamic was my least favorite of the evening, but it was still pretty damn good.
Agreed.
Well, it's really interesting that there's everyone's going to have different tastes, right? Everyone's going to appreciate different things. So the more whiskeys are, the better are. And if somebody doesn't like something, there's going to be somebody else who does like it. So
Well, and the Biodynamic was so sweet. It was wonderful. It was mouth filling. It was just a total, like, anybody could drink this kind of thing. And the other ones were a very specific when you would, just to experience them. And everything's been absolutely amazing. Each one was even better than the next. So thank you.
yeah, thank you. And you know what? The more I knows this Peat Reek, the more I think it's Lefroy.
Really?
That was my thought in the first place.
I agree.
You're teasing us.
It has that iodine quality of Lefroy. That's what it is. Got that bit of an iodine.
I mean, Lefroy is very sweet like this one, but Lefroy is more of like a punch in the nose with the smoke. This isn't that smoke.
I think you're overstating the smoke of Lefroy. I think this reminds me of the cask that I selected during Fagio in 2019.
The Lefroy does have that Band-Aid iodine quality. There's a little of that. There is some of that.
It's sweet.
Well, we're all bleeding a little bit from the heart right now, so the Lefroy is a perfect.
Doesn't matter. It's from my
Band-Aid.
favorite place on the planet, Islay. So it doesn't matter what it is. I want it.
Well, you know what? And the good thing is we can continue to try and figure out what it is, but the main thing is as long as we're enjoying what's in the glass.
That's right.
So
Yeah.
I raised this to all of you and Slancha for
Mantra.
Here.
Slancha.
Yes.
Unfortunately, my Peat Reek is empty.
Yeah, ditto. All of mine are
Thanks,
empty.
thanks to Holly and Charles for inviting me.
Raj,
and,
thank you so much.
being here.
Thank you so much for tonight. The education and quality of everything that you brought to the table is fantastic. It's been a long time coming. I'm so happy to actually be online with you, and I can't wait in person as well. Thank you again, and we look forward to lots to come.
Hey, Raj, I have a question for you. How common is the name Sabharwal?
Okay.
It's not as common as Smith or Jones, but it's there. Why
Do you have any young relatives who's an orthopedic surgeon in Maryland, in Baltimore?
not that I know of.
Too bad.
All right, guys, I'm gonna stop the recording because we're almost at 2 hours. We can stay online if you want. That's no problem, but I'm just gonna stop it. Just
Great.
let you know.
Raj, what's your
I'm happy to
Instagram? Oh, there we
answer
go.
any other questions if